this is Mia from MiMo Design Laser Files. I literally just finished the tutorial for this Best Teacher Affirmation spinner. You can find it by clicking on the link below. So I wanted to show you now how I would assemble and paint this Peony's recovery spinner. So for this one I'll use some different techniques than I did on the teacher spinner. So this time I'll be using watercolor because I love to paint flowers with watercolor. So I grabbed a bunch of different brushes and I'll show you how to do that. I will also show you how to assemble this once I'm done painting. If you don't want to see how I paint, you could always scroll by and get right to the assembly. So I will say that with the files, I couldn't decide if I wanted this full flower or if I wanted this one that I cut to match the shape of the one beneath. So in the files I did include both. So it's up to you what you prefer. I actually think I like the full shaped flower better, but it will lose a bit of the details, especially if you rounded your flowers like I did. I just took my sander and angled down the edges so it's rounded instead of sharp. It's really easy to do, and you can see it in the window. And the whole sanding process took around 5 minutes. So it's not a lot of work. But let's get back to the painting. I want my peonies to be pink-ish. So I grabbed this. This is from Flying Tiger Copenhagen. It's a very cheap watercolor set. So you can use any watercolors. I also use my son's watercolors. I have a 3-year-old toddler. So what I want to do first is grab a larger brush because I'll be painting my base colors first. So I think I'll take this one. And you have a flower with a smaller inner piece and a B flower with a bigger inner piece. I'll just start on the B. Okay, this is really dark. I think I'll go a little lighter. Maybe try this one. Yeah. So since you are going to layer the flowers, you can use this inner piece as a color tester. So once you've picked the color that you like, you just fill out everything. And the great thing about watercolor is that depending on how much water you have on your brush, it will make some color differences on its own. Also, I find that it covers really nicely. So I'll let this dry just a little and take my top here. For some watercolors, like this one, actually, I might want to give it 2 layers. But you see how it's kind of already making some differences in the shades. So I can add a little more by adding some more paint on my brush and just kind of dab it on the flower. So I'll take my bottom again. And instead of wiping, I'm now dabbing the paint on. So this one got pretty dark, so I'll see if I can make the other one a little lighter. Once you've added your colors, find out which direction it goes and layer them, and you can now see if there's something that you want to touch up. I'll show you how to highlight these things once the first layer is dry. But that's the bee flower. So I want this to be a little lighter, so I might try with this color. And if you don't have the colors you're looking for, you could always blend it a little. But the great thing about watercolor is that even though you have scored details beneath, they'll still be visible. So I actually think that this was perfect in the first shot. When I cut these, I did kind of angle all the pieces. Let's see how this one goes. A, B, like that. So now that I can see how they look together, it will give me an idea on how I want to highlight and shade everything. So I'll take my bigger brush away and take a smaller brush like this, and I'll take some white and I'll just carefully kind of make some stripes around the scored lines. Also, I'll take my wipe and just kind of wipe off all the edges of my piece. That was a lot of white. But do you see the idea of it? Now it's kind of shaded. So I'll do the same on this one, and I'll take the inner scored line where I'm going to layer the flowers as well. Use some on those edges. And the great thing about watercolor is that you can use your finger to kind of smudge it out if you got too much or you want some effects. And I want this folding leaf to be a little lighter than the rest. And then I can just take my brush now and kind of make stripes with my white to give it a little extra detail. Piece them together and see if there's something that you want to add. But I think this one is ready to go, so I'll take the lighter one. And again, take my white. And you can see that I'm just doing this really randomly, so it doesn't take a lot of training or effort. The watercolor will do its work on its own. And again, you can use any type of watercolor. The ones I'm using are cheap watercolor from Flying Copenhagen, but I also have some from our local supermarket. And I have my son's watercolor as well. So that's the 2 flowers. I have to check the bee. Oops. So I really want the shading where they connect to maybe be, or the highlight, be a little lighter than this one. So I think that's perfect. So now it's just the leaf, and this has taken 10 minutes so far. So it's really easy. And I'll just pick a color of green. But instead of using my white and highlight everything, I'll take a darker green and run it across my scored lines. And also the edges. Use my finger to blend it a little, and it's done. So that's the flowers. For the actual ornament, I usually stain, but this time I'll use my beeswax. So I have this beeswax from Novecento. It's an Italian brand, sorry, but I know you can get beeswax in all kinds of colors. So you could find something that matches. And since my bagger will be hidden, I'll take the prettier side and use for the back. I'll just grab some paper towel and add some of my wax on. And when I'm going over the engraving, I want to push it down a little. That way it will darken the engravings. But the reason I'm using wax and not stain on this one is that I wanted to make this, I don't know what you could call it, a rustique look, because I think that will go really well with my flowers. And I am messing a little. Whoops. So on the edges, I'll just kind of tap it and run it over, so it will make a little darkness on the edge of it. Maybe again use my finger to kind of smudge it and get it everywhere I want it. And now this just needs to soak in. So the back is a little easier because I can just paint it. No one really looks at the back anymore. So I'll rub in my wax on the back. think that's right. So on the front, you don't have to do anything within the scored lines because you will be layering your flowers on that area. So you only want to stain paint, treat with wax or whatever outside of these scored marks. But now that this is done, I might as well glue my flowers on top of it. So I will use some super glue. I use Loctite. I used Gorilla super glue for my other version, but this one is empty. So I'll take some Loctite super glue instead. And I'll take my A. And you have to be really careful that you align these perfect. But the A will go directly on top of this A. And also you can feel on the edges over here if you are aligning it correct. I'm just laying it a little loose and quickly taking my B. And doing the same by aligning the B on top of the B and snapping these two together. So you have to get these to fit together, but you also want them to be aligned to the backer. So the last is the leaf. And again, this one should be aligned to the back as well. But now that they fit together, I'll just push it down. And I can now layer the flowers. So before I add glue to these, I just want to make sure which direction they go. It could be a little confusing with these, but you have the scored indications to show you where they go. So I'll add some glue on the A here. And align it to the scored lines. B. And once again, align it to the scored marks. And that's different. So for assembling the actual ornaments, this is already dry, so I'll just flip it over. Sorry. You want to take your wheel and place it to the backer. I like to decorate the spinner and the hanger as well, so I'll just quickly grab a marker for the spinner, the hanger, and for the lever of the spinner. And since I know that my spinner will be visible from the back, I'll also take the back. And to make it a little more metal look, I'll also rub my edges. So this one is just a metallic acrylic paint pen that I got from Amazon. I'll drop the link below. But now we are ready. So to explain a little bit, you want to sand the back and front on the front and the backer. The wheel you want to sand extra, what do you call that? You want to sand it with a little more power to remove as much material as possible. So sand this really nice and smooth. The smoother it is, the easier it will glide. Do not sand this inner piece because you want this to be just a tiny bit thicker than the wheel itself. So one way you could do that is add some thick 3M tape to both sides of this one. You could also use cardboard, you could use some thinner material, some paper, whatever will make this just slightly thicker. What I do is that I use a stapler. This is from my local hardware shop in Sicily, but you can get it anywhere, and I'll drop an Amazon link below on a similar one. So once you have a stapler, you just staple this piece in. You can give it as many or as little staples as you want, but this will kind of lift the material just a tiny bit. Once you've done that, you take some wood glue and place it on top of your staples and the wheel itself. Be very careful that you don't get glue stuck on the edge, because then you'll glue the wheel down. To make this dry a little easier for the sake of my tutorial, I'll also add a few drops of super glue so I can show you what it looks like once it's assembled. Take your front and align this hole to the hanger if you have the hanger version. If you have the magnet version, you don't have anything to align it to, and you just place it. Once you have it aligned, and you could also feel the edges of the ornament or bagger, you take some clamps and just clamp it down. Like this. And now you just have to wait for it to dry, and once it's dry, I'll actually just show you. I'm the best teacher. Once it's dry, you take your lever for a good spin. This one states you are the best teacher in the whole world. This one, just remove it so you can see. It's probably not dry yet. May you feel better with each passing day. So it's not dry yet, so I'll just clamp it down again. But once it's dry, you take it for a spin, and then you can add a piece of string or magnets on the back. And that's pretty much it. If you're interested in this file, you can find it in my Etsy shop or our own platform, allstarsdesign.com. I'll drop the links below as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.